The evening air was soft, and the porch boards creaked gently beneath my rocking chair. My grandson sat close by with his little legs swinging off the edge of the porch. He was starting kindergarten in the fall, and lately he had been asking questions about everything. What if he got lost? What if somebody was mean? What if there was a bad storm while he was at school? What if his teacher couldn't find him? And that last question made me smile just a little. Baby, I said, reaching over to smooth his hair, your teacher is going to know exactly where you are. But what if something scary happens? He asked. I stopped rocking for a moment. I looked out across the yard, past the garden fence, and toward the trees beyond the pasture. The memory came back instantly. Well, let me tell you about the day something very scary happened to your mama and me. His eyes widened. When she was little, when she was just a little girl. He leaned closer. Back then, we did not carry cell phones or have weather alerts buzzing in our pockets. We had a television, a radio, and an old phone wall hanging in the kitchen. It had one of those extra long curly cords that stretched far enough for us to walk all around the kitchen while we talked. If we needed news about the storm, we had to wait for the television or the radio, or call someone and hope they knew more than what we did. There was no little weather map in the palm of our hand showing exactly where the storm was moving. And that afternoon, the sky had taken on that strange color us country people know not to ignore. And we listened carefully when the weather turned bad. The air felt heavy. The wind would blow for a moment and then suddenly go still. Your pa wasn't home. It was only me and your mama inside our single wide trailer. Now, there's nothing wrong with a single wide trailer. It can hold supper, laughter, birthday cakes, bedtime prayers, and a whole lot of love. But when the weatherman says a tornado has touched down nearby, a single wide trailer can feel about as sturdy as a shoebox. I turned on the television. The picture wasn't as clear as the screens people have now, but the warning was clear enough. A tornado had touched down just outside of town, and it was moving toward us. I watched the radar picture. The tornado was about 5 miles from our home. Your mama looked at me and asked with those big brown eyes, Mama, is it coming here? I did not lie to her, but I didn't need fear taking over the room either. It is coming this direction, I said, but we are going to pray. The wind had started picking up again, and the trailer was rocking slightly. The branches bent. The sky looked darker. What do I pray? She asked. I knelt down so we were eye to eye. You go into your bedroom, I told her, and you pray for God to protect us. But listen to me. Do not pray like God does not know you. Do not pray like you have to beg Him to care. Pray with confidence, I said. Pray because you know He loves you. Pray because He created you. Pray because you belong to Him. I watched your mama turn from a little 5-year-old girl into a prayer warrior. Then she walked past the couch into her bedroom and closed the door. I stayed in the living room. For a moment the trailer felt very quiet, too quiet. Then I began to pray. There was no time for fancy words. I simply asked God to protect us and protect our home. I prayed knowing that the wind and the storm were still under God's authority, and with Him all things are possible. In the next room I could hear your mama praying too, with confidence, knowing that He is in control and He loves us, not weak, strong. About 1 minute passed, maybe a little more. I stood and turned the television back on for the next weather update. The weatherman was pointing at the radar. I moved closer to the screen. At first, I thought I had misunderstood what I was seeing. The tornado had been traveling toward our home, but about a mile before reaching us, its path had changed. Not a slow curve, not a slight drift. It had made a sharp 90-degree turn. The storm moved away from our trailer. I stared at the television. Then I looked at your mama's bedroom door. She was still praying. "Tiny Heiny," I called. She came into the living room. Her face was serious, big eyes. "Did God hear us?" she asked. I nodded. "Yes, God heard us." The tornado did not strike our home. Our trailer remained standing. We were safe. Years later, people could have offered different explanations about weather patterns, wind shifts, and storm movement. I understand that weather can change, but I also know what I had seen. A tornado was on the ground. It was headed toward our home. A mother and her child prayed, and 1 minute later, the storm made a 90-degree turn about a mile away. I looked at my grandson and said calmly, "That was not luck. That was God." He sat silently beside me now. Even the swinging of his feet had stopped. "Were you scared?" he finally asked. "Yes, I was." "But you still prayed?" "I prayed because I was scared." He thought about that. "So being scared doesn't mean I don't trust Jesus?" I smiled. "No, baby. Being scared means you are human. Trusting Jesus means you remember who is with you while you are scared." The rocking chair creaked again. My grandson looked out toward the yard. "What if I get scared at kindergarten?" "You pray." "What if I miss Mama?" "You pray." "What if somebody is mean?" "You pray, and you tell your teacher." "What if there's a storm?" "You listen to the adults, follow directions, and you pray." He looked up at me. "Do I have to pray loud?" "No." "Do I have to close my eyes?" "Not if you need to keep them open." "Do I have to know big words?" I chuckled softly on that one. "Jesus is not impressed by big words. He listens to honest ones." That got me a smile. "What can I say?" I placed my hand over his little small one. "You can say, 'Jesus, I am scared, but I know you are with me. Please help me.'" He repeated it quietly. "Jesus, I am scared, but I know you are with me. Please help me." "That's a good prayer," I said. He looked toward the sky. "Mimi, does Mama remember that tornado?" "Oh, yes." "Does she remember what you told her?" "I believe she does." My grandson leaned against my arm, and for a few moments neither of us spoke. The porch was peaceful. A bird called from one of the trees. The garden leaves moved gently in the evening breeze. There was no dark sky, no warning on the television, no storm racing toward us. But I knew storms did not always come with thunder. Sometimes a child's first day of school could feel like a storm. A new classroom, strange faces, a mother walking away at the door, a fear too small for adults to understand, but very large inside a 5-year-old heart. I bent down close to him. "Listen to me, son. I cannot promise that nothing scary will ever happen." He looked up at me with the same big eyes as his mama. "But I can promise you this. You will never face it alone." "Because Jesus is watching?" "Yes." "And protecting me?" "Yes." "All the time?" All the time, he smiled. Then he asked, even at kindergarten? I pulled him into a hug. And when you feel like Mimi is too far away, he wrapped his arms around me. I kissed the top of his head. One day, you may not remember every word I told you on this porch. I will. You might forget some of them. He shook his head. I won't. I smiled. Okay. Well, remember this part. When life feels scary, do not let fear be the only voice talking to you. He listened. Remember that Jesus knows where you are. He loves you. He created you, and you can pray to him with confidence. My little grandson nodded slowly. Then, with the seriousness only a small child can carry, he said, because I belong to him. Now that brought tears to my eyes real quick. That's right, son. Mimi? Yes, son. Why did you call Mama Tiny Honey? I smiled and said, that's a story for another day. The rocking chair began moving again, and as the sun lowered behind the trees, I hugged my grandson close, grateful that a storm from long ago had become a lesson strong enough to protect another child's heart. The tornado never touched our trailer, but the prayer spoken that day traveled much farther than the storm ever did. It reached across the years, from a frightened little girl praying like a true prayer warrior in a bedroom, to a young boy sitting safely beside his Mimi on the porch. And now he knew what to do when life became frightening. Listen, obey, and remember to pray.